Sorry.
We don't get 3 warnings. We get 3 lights, and that last light is green, and it's green to go.
Woo!
As we once again go with our Over the Hill special, folks. Yes, it is the spoiler room, folks. I am Mark the Movie Man. You have to apologize, a little bit burnt out. It was a rough week, but I am very happy to be here tonight to celebrate another film that is as old as I am now. And it is a classic from another one, Roger Corman. And I didn't really plan it that way. It just happened that way. Carradine Carnage Month, Over the Hill special. We're looking at Death Race 2000. Yes, a cult classic film that tonight it should be an interesting conversation on just how many things this film influenced, which you don't really realize till you're actually paying attention now, 50 years later. And tonight, I got a wonderful crew assembled with me to talk movie spoilers. So thank you for joining us, venturing down the stairs and popping your favorite drink with us. I'm drinking Wisconsinably tonight.
Oh, my extra cold brew just exploded on me.
Extra cold brew is very excited, especially about those Navigator and Frankenstein scenes in Death Race 2000. Yes, you heard his voice there. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joe Randazzo is with us. Hello, Joe. How you doing,
hey, everyone?
Sir? So glad you could be with us today. And also with us, my right-hand man. He's just coming back for more. I think we brought him back after last month, which is a little rough for everybody. We're slowly bringing him back here. And so tonight, we've got Mr. Ian Simmons with us as well. How you doing, Ian?
I'm fantastic. I love this movie. I hadn't seen it until today, but it's been long on my bucket list because for literal decades, people have been saying, "Have you seen Death Race 2000?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm guilty of the same thing that people let me down for saying, oh, it's a cheesy 70s, beat picture. I don't care." But I watched it, and now, it's up there in the Pantheon. And it also makes me detest a very recent blockbuster all the more.
I think I know the one you're talking about. I
think I know which one you're talking about as well. So, Joe, you always do these so well. If you could, please. Give us a synopsis of Death Race 2000, because I know
I should have pulled my DVD. I could have just read the back of it because I didn't realize it until I pulled it. I'm like, Buena Vista owns this? That is so this is a Disney company that owns this?
Of course it is.
It's the future of the year 2000. Apparently, we've been doing these races for 2 decades because in 20 years, only one man has won 3 times. Well, spoiler, the end of this one, he won for the 3rd time. And that is David Carradine's Frankenstein. What is it called? The race across across the country?
The intercontinental race.
Yeah. It is, God, how do
basically Cannonball Run.
Yeah, I mean, this actually thematically could have fit in with a lot of the movies we did last month, and I'm wondering actually, and unfortunately I had to work this morning, so I didn't get a chance to look into it. Was this Corman's answer to Rollerball?
Ooh. Well, I guess he could. I don't know how fast he made this movie, but they both came out in the same year.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there would have been time to respond to Rollerball.
I mean,
would have known of it. You could have very well known.
Okay, look, I understand he can work fast, but watching Death Race 2000, I don't know if you can work that fast because there's some amazing stuff going on here. From just the cars alone, I was on the floor. Like, I couldn't believe, this does not look like a low budget, cardboard and prayers production here. But that's just me.
But it is a low-budget movie, and that's what makes this amazing, is that they managed to wrap this together so quickly with so little money. It's the Race Across America, where, you've always played these games as a kid where you're sitting in the car going, oh, if you hit them, it's 50 points. If you hit them, it's 10 points. if you hit an elderly person, it's 75 points. If you or is it 100? If you hit
no, it's 100. It
100
used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be. They changed the rules for this race in the movie. This version, the 20th anniversary, they raised it up so anyone over 75 years old was 100 points. Toddlers under 12 were 70 points this year, and teenagers were 40 points, but women in all age brackets were 10 points more than men. I wrote it down on specifically because I'm like, yeah.
Because at one point, Frankenstein, this is a brilliant scene. The nurses bring out a bunch of old people in wheelchairs for Euthanasia Day and put them in the road. And Frankenstein decides, I'm not going to go for them. I'm going to go around them and hit all the nurses, which is brilliant.
I was so happy at that scene.
There's a lot of...
It's just a total surprise. You're like, oh, what are they going to do here? And they're like, oh, we're going to take a completely unexpected route, literally. Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this race happens apparently every year. And... it's usually hyper violent. You have Machine Gun Joe, played by Sylvester Stallone, who's kind of like the main antagonist for Frankenstein. Though you have the Nazis, also led by
from Milwaukee. I'm offended by that.
Nazis from Milwaukee. Oh God, what was her name? Matilda
the Hun.
Matilda the Hun. Brilliant name. And then you have Mary Warrenoff as Calamity Jane.
And don't forget Nero and Cleopatra as well.
Yeah, they are the navigators for that. Oh wait, no,
Nero was the driver.
Yeah.
Cleopatra was his navigator.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they exit really early. You know, this kind of reminded me of when you see the rebels. You know, the rebellion that's trying to take them out because we've fallen into a fascist dictatorship.
What?
Yeah, right. Not a thing you'd find in these futuristic movies at all. So yeah, you've fallen into a fascist dictatorship, and you know the president now does not reside in the United States anymore.
No,
he lives in China. Yeah.
When he's not visiting Russia.
Yeah. So, God, where am I? This kind of reminded me of like a live action Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoon because you'd see like the rebels like setting things up in the road, and then somehow, I mean, God, the end of Matilda the Hun is literally a Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote bit. They put up a fake tunnel, he goes through it off a cliff. Like Roadrunner would be proud. This movie is a live-action Looney Tunes at times, which is amazing because you also have at the same time you had Joe Dante working with Corman around the same time as Paul Bartel, and they also he also does the live-action Looney Tunes bit a lot with his movies. But man, my brain is my brain is racing as fast as the cars are.
I can help you a bit. I can help you.
Harriet Nadine as Thomasina Payne, who's the leader of the rebels, which is a brilliant name, Thomasina Payne. I mean, that's the thing, man. It's on the nose. A lot of the humor is on the nose, but it works. It really works. And if you realize it's Paul Bartel who also went on to make Eating Raoul, which is another brilliant movie that I absolutely adore. Yeah, let's. I guess we'll just get into spoilers.
We can just get into it. We can just get into it.
I'm losing track.
Yeah. No, it's basically. We'll get into the influences later on of what borrowed from this movie.
Yeah, they start early, like even down to shots that I'm like, oh wait a minute.
Shots and characters especially, but basically it's a death race. They drive across the country, get points for killing people. You've got rivalries. There's a resistance that wants to, similar to Running Man, which would come later, of a rebellious group from the inside want to try to take down this sadistic, long-running competition that is meant to bring peace to a U.S. that has fallen behind other. Look, this film, watching it this time, was very eerie. Okay, I'm going to just put it. in a few respects, but basically, yeah. So, and then we've got Frankenstein, who's been the long-term hero, big fan, but he's got his own motivations that go beyond winning the race, that are kind of in line with the rebels, but kind of not in a way.
But he's also a personal friend of the president.
Yeah,
so
because he's won 3 times. So yeah, and there's that, and a lot of things come up.
And why they call him Frankenstein, which is in '97 he lost this limb, in '94 he lost this limb, so they'd have to keep giving him new parts, which I think is brilliant.
Well, I mean, I think that's something that I think is revealed later to be a lie.
Yep.
And that was what I love is the total commitment to the idea of the 100% control of government and media, because from the first reveal of Frankenstein, you see David Carradine underneath this black mask with this cowl, and one eye is like horribly burned and disfigured, and his teeth are all like jutting out, and he looks horrible. But at one point, his navigator Annie reaches over while they're on the road and takes off his mask, and all the prosthetics, which it turns out they are, fall away as well in her hands, and it's just the beautiful visage of David Carradine. And later, when they're getting intimate with each other, and he's almost completely naked, there's no scarring. Like, the only thing he won't do is take off his gloved hand, and there's a reason for that later. But there's all this talk about these amazing teams of Swiss doctors that patch him up after all these horrendous races. But then when he's talking about his upbringing, he says that he was basically born and bred to become the racer for this year, implying that Frankenstein is a character created by the government for the public, to say he's basically this indestructible racer who you can, kind of like the Tron Ares model that we're going to see in a couple of months, this being that's a great champion warrior who can take a beating and then just keep sort of regenerating, except that it's all been different guys throughout all those races. Now, he does talk about the race in '97, so I don't know if that's him like carrying on the continuity of those other men for this persona, or if he actually was involved in that somehow, because it's only 3 years ago. But there's a lot of different instances here where we see the propaganda seeping through, and the people behind the scenes almost being caught unawares, or like, oh wow, I really do have to just read this lie right on air. It just came to me, and I have to sell it too, even though I know it's complete trash.
Yeah, that was probably one of the more interesting things right away, is just the Frankenstein character. And he's basically a killing Dread Pirate Roberts. The best comparison is, Dread Pirate Roberts was a name more so than an actual person. It was just the idea, and that's what they were going for here. I get the impression that at least Carradine's Frankenstein has been doing it for maybe 5 or 8 years, because if you look at his age, even if he is older, and if you figure out, for 20 years Frankenstein has been around, he'd be driving at like 15 or something.
Yeah, but that's the point. Is I don't know. They don't exactly establish what happens to the other Frankensteins, but he mentions, I was bred for this year, this race.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if he's been doing it for a couple of years, if he's only been doing it for the 1 year, or if there are other people, like if he hadn't pulled what he had at the end of this movie, if he would have been sort of decommissioned and someone else would have been brought up. Because it is
that's right, because he's got that kind of reveal to Annie, who, spoiler folks, this is a spoiler room, ends up being an inside agent for the resistance.
The resistance, yeah.
And when he finally confesses to her, when he finally realizes he can trust her, he mentions that, well, I've been bred in a government facility for so many years just to be Frankenstein, basically, which then implies, holy crap, and then when you see the media acts until now, I mean, they build up this whole thing with his entrance, because they give the entrance to all the racers, and he comes in a gurney, and they talk about how, he had to be in a form of stasis because he recently got a new mechanical arm.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing is when you find out that we're going to see what he is like underneath all of that, that beautiful black cape and that leather jacket, you expect to see this mangled patchwork of things, maybe metal parts or something, but no, it's just David Carradine under there.
Which
great.
which just makes it great. And our other racers too are hilarious. Yeah, we have Matilda the Hun from Milwaukee, which makes me wonder in my hometown what it must have been like in 75, because we also had the Blues Brothers who had a Nazi group that was
in Illinois, though.
They were from Illinois.
Yeah.
That's right. They drove up from Illinois. That's right.
So there were a lot of Nazis concentrated in this region.
Nice choice of words, Joe.
There used to be, hopefully.
Or at least they were in the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah. So
didn't one try to run for office?
Yeah.
Literally a couple years ago, somebody in like Southern Illinois who identified as a Nazi was trying to run for office.
Yeah, I remember it lasted briefly, and
yeah, he got voted out on it.
His campaign didn't last long. But yeah, that we got like I said, we've got a Roman themed couple, because there's the driver and the navigator, and the navigator's relationship with the driver, it's revealed as the film goes along, is basically there not only as the navigator for the driver, but also basically stress relief.
Yeah.
Intended to be the satisfy the sexual desires of the driver, to keep them happy or something along that lines. We learn later on. And in true Corman fashion, we get to see an example of this. A couple yeah. So then you've got the Roman themed ones. Then you've got Nero and Cleopatra. They're taken out pretty early. Matilda the Hun from Milwaukee with Fuzzy Rocket, or whatever his name is, they call him. They never get his name right. So then you have those guys. Then you have the Southerners in Calamity Jane
and Martin Cove as
he was Nero. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then you have Frankenstein, and then pre-Rocky, we have Sly Stallone as the ever narcissistic Machine Gun Joe
from Chicago.
From go figure, Chicago.
Which is why he'll pull out a machine gun and fire on the crowd.
Not just any machine gun, a Tommy gun. And he dresses like a gangster.
I'd never seen this movie until today, and it made me wonder what would Stallone's career have been like if he had just played heavies, because I think he's great in this movie.
Oh, he is.
I don't think I haven't seen some of his recent work. Like, I know he's on the show Tulsa King, which I don't know anything about, but he mostly plays like heroes. But he's an intimidating, kind of a lunkhead, and he walks that fine line between like menace and comedy. Like when he goes up against that fisherman, and the fisherman's like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of your work, Mr. Frankenstein." He's like, "You got 2 seconds to live."
Or even better, just before that, when because they race, and just like in Cannonball Run, literally like Cannonball Run, they get a time to wait before they have to race again. And the first night, he's talking to Annie, who's the navigator for Frankenstein, and she gives him some false information. And so the next day, while he's driving with his navigator, who he abuses and just treats like shit, he's driving along, though, and he's like, should I take that shortcut or shouldn't I? Is he going that way? I don't know. I'm not going that way. I'm not going to be a lunkhead. I'm going that way, but I'm not a lunkhead. I'm not. But just he's having this conversation with himself, and I'm like, oh my God, go Sylvester.
He had some great comedic timing, and had he, I think it was just bad decisions, the comedies he made in the 90s. But
well, yeah.
he could have. I think he could have done well doing comedic roles too. I also love when Frankenstein approaches his navigator, and while she's getting a massage, he's like, just tell them, tell them I whispered sweet nothings in your ear. And then she botches that up. It was God. What did she turn that into?
Something like my ears are nothing.
Yeah, my ear. My ear. So he's putting something sweet in my ear or something. I'm like,
Yeah. It's something ears are my sweet. Yeah, she just totally botches.
Totally mangles it, and I love it. Like to such a degree that we can't even remember it here, but it was brilliant.
But what's weird is that, I mean, it's a funny moment that's followed by something pretty horrifying. And I don't know if this was played for laughs in 75, but he punched in front of everybody. He just punches her in the face. And in the next day, when they're out in the car getting ready to race, she's fine. Like, I expect like a broken nose or a shiner or something, but man, she's
she might have put makeup over it. But well, I don't think it was played. The punch was played for a joke. It was actually played for that transition of, here's your joke. Oh yeah. Boom. All of a sudden you're reminded of just who Machine Gun Joe is, because everybody goes silent when he does that in front of the cameras. And you have Calamity Jane and Matilda even looking at each other like, yeah, shit, what an asshole. You know?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that whole dynamic is just, it's weird. And he's a great villain. And what I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow night on my show, the new movie, The Long Walk.
Yeah.
Which is 25 minutes longer than this movie, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Yet this movie, in no time at all, draws compelling, understandable characters with motivations that you can get behind, or at least get. Intense action, a political story with allegories out the wazoo. Decades ahead of its time in terms of ideas, and yet, I'm going to see something that came out this year, 50 years later, that doesn't get that tries very hard to do an eighth of the work this movie did, and I don't understand it. On top of that, The Long Walk, which Stephen King, I don't know when he wrote it, but it came out 4 years after the story came out 4 years, I think, after this movie. I think it was 79, or maybe it's a little bit after that. But this Death Race 2000, I mean, this is where you get Hunger Games and a lot of, Running Man,
so much, yeah.
A lot of, but that's the thing, is a lot of the stuff that's in the Long Walk book is in Death Race 2000, but it's not in the Long Walk movie. And the Long Walk movie has the ending of Death Race 2000.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to get off on this because I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow.
You'll be talking about it tomorrow. Save it for the show tomorrow, but
right. But I'm just saying, like, it's strange watching this movie after coincidentally watching this other film this weekend and just seeing, like, you're talking about the influences, Mark. But yeah, I don't know. It's all jumbled up in my head.
Right off the bat, early on, there's a scene where Frankenstein is looking at his car, and the way it's set up, like, holy shit, this is the Batcave. This is where Lucius Fox shows Bruce Wayne the cars in The Dark Knight and Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
Just the shot is just taken right from this.
Well,
so Christopher Nolan presumably is a fan of this movie.
There's so many influences. I mean, you mention it. I mean, if you watch Death Race 2000 and you're not like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like every few minutes in the opening going, Hunger Games, Hunger Games, Hunger Games.
Twisted Metal.
Twisted Metal. You've got in Hunger Games, especially though, the way the TV stuff is handled. Holy crap. This easily, with the TV angle, with the personalities, the way the show's written, the way they talk, the way they do their interviews, you're like, this easily could have been in Hunger Games, because you basically have your Effie character who is doing these interviews, who talks. I'm like, the president, who's a personal friend of mine, or the Frankenstein, who I know personally, the way she talks and interviews these people, I'm just like, oh my Lord, the media part of this that they display in this film directly had to influence Hunger Games.
Yeah, and her character name was Grace Pander.
Yeah. I forgot. Yeah, I remember when I saw it. Oh, Pander. Great.
Played by Joyce Jameson.
Jenna's mother. No.
Joyce Jameson. Oh wait, she was in Comedy of Terrors and a couple of other Vincent Price movies. Yeah, I remember. Yep. I didn't realize that was her.
Yeah, that was her. She was in Any Which Way But Loose, and yeah, she's been in a lot, and she's in here playing basically an Effie character.
Oh, and then you've got Don Steele playing the other, like the main, like lively TV commentator guy.
Yeah,
he was 10 years later, he would be the voice of Rockin' Ricky Rialto in Gremlins.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the Corman connection with Joe Dante and Paul Bartel and all those guys. I kind of felt like he came off like when Michael Palin would do the cheesy announcers on Monty Python. That's kind of what I got from that. I'm like, that was really cool.
Junior Bruce.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is like going back to Gremlins. It's weird because I knew the voice, I recognized the voice, but you don't see that character in Gremlins at all, except on a billboard, and it looks exactly like the guy did in Death Race 2000 because it's just what the actor looked like. But yeah,
well, I mean, it's also Joe Dante and Paul Bartel were always used. Dick Miller's in this. Dick Miller's in every Joe Dante movie. He was a big Corman guy. So yeah, I mean, we could end up talking half an hour just about the Roger Corman aspect of this, which really excites me all the time. Anyways, I love talking about Corman and Corman's movies.
Yeah, I mean, to put it for those who need Don Steele is basically Stanley Tucci's character in Hunger Games.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's what was eerie is watching it this time because it's been a while since I watched this film. Watching it for the show, so I'm paying a little more attention. I'm like, all of this seems very familiar. I mean, a lot of it. It's like,
and oddly enough, the movies that had the least, or I haven't seen all of them, but the movie that took the least from this seems to have been the Death Race remake in 2009, which took nothing from this.
I don't want to see that. I remember that there was a Death Race back then, but watching this now, I don't want to know. I'm comfortable saying I will never watch that movie because it's not worth tracking down. Yeah.
I found like the 4-pack of them at Dollar Tree once. I'm like, all right, whatever. Frankenstein is in it. David Carradine is the voice of Frankenstein, but clearly somebody else's body, which also plays into but they kill him off, and I'm like, that seems kind of counterproductive. It also seems to not make sense in the story to kill off Frankenstein because, like we talked about here, Frankenstein is really more of an idea than an actual, flesh and blood human. So it's weird that they kill him off, but they do. If I remember correctly, it's been a little while since I've seen it. I think they want Statham to be the new Frankenstein. I think that was the angle.
Yeah, it was. That was the angle. Was the original Frankenstein? Carradine's dies, and so you basically see the transition that Carradine's Frankenstein talks about in this film. You see that transition actually happening where they find a new Frankenstein in Statham.
But I don't remember if he becomes Frankenstein or if he decides he's going to be his own. I think he's going to be his own person by the end.
Yeah.
And then I think he's not going to be the sequel. So.
Yeah.
So presumably they went through the whole thing again.
I've watched it. My wife, it's a guilty pleasure of hers. She got a kick out of those films. They're completely ridiculous, but they're definitely not at the level of this, which again, this is 75, a Corman film directed by a guy who's mostly known for a little bit more of comedic roles. And here he's making this that you're right. I mean,
speaking of Gremlins, he's the usher in Gremlins 2 who goes and gets Hulk Hogan.
It surprised me the runtime because if you watch the ideas and themes and subjects that are covered in this film that is 89 minutes long. Not even 79 minutes
Yeah,
long.
I was gonna say, did you watch
It's 79. No, it's 79 minutes long. And you look how much, pardon the pun, road is covered in this from political commentary. It's crazy how much they pack into this film. It's like everything either gives you an idea of the characters or the plot or the motivation of everyone.
And I feel like Paul Bartel doesn't get the recognition he deserves for being one of the most amazing satirists to ever make a movie. Because between this and Eating Raoul, this guy manages to skewer Americana like to such a degree. As the restaurateurs, Paul and Mary Bland, in Eating Raoul, and here he's the doctor that rolls Frankenstein out at the very beginning. He has such a sharp wit, or he had. He's been dead 20 years now. He had such a sharp wit, and he's always just so amazing to watch when he acts, or just to watch his movies unfold. And I realized last night, I'm like, I need to watch more of his movies because I've only that he's directed. I've only seen this and Eating Raoul, and I'm like, I need to see the rest. I need to see everything else he's done because I need to know. I need to know what else was rattling around in that brain of his, because he's 2 for 2 for me. Maybe I shouldn't watch anymore, but he's 2 for 2 right now, and I'm like, I need to see more. This left me wanting to see more Paul Bartel movies.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I haven't seen many of his other films either outside of the 2 you mentioned, but just looking at these 2, especially this one though, I mean, and your cast of characters, not all of them are out to get Frankenstein. I mean, you have Calamity Jane, who ends up having the rivalry with Matilda. And at one point, Calamity Jane scores, and yes, scores by running over Matilda. I think it was Matilda's navigator.
No, Matilda runs over.
That's right. Calamity Jane. Yeah.
Calamity Jane's navigator
got ran over by Matilda. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, Calamity Jane's navigator gets run over by Matilda the Hun, and so they have a rivalry. But Calamity Jane's an interesting character because even though she gets hot under the collar and angry at Matilda, at the very end, there's this interesting scene because, they set up the Wile E. Coyote tunnel, and Matilda goes over, pay no attention to the wood underneath the car. But that's totally not a balsa wood car. That just went over the edge. But afterwards, Calamity Jane, who was all angry about her navigator, looks over and goes, whoa, like she shows a little bit of actual sympathy for Matilda for her getting aced by the rebels,
which I don't understand. She just killed you. She just killed your second. So it's a weird world.
Well, but she didn't have. I mean, her reaction to her navigator getting run over, it wasn't of any kind of an emotional connection. She says, "Nobody scores my navigator and gets away with it."
Right.
It was it was almost like you ripped the spoiler off my new car. She was professionally wounded, but It's not like she's shedding tears for the guy. And it happened so quick. I mean, I had the benefit of watching this on Amazon, so I rewound it because it's not the best shot, and it happens so quickly that the navigator is underneath the car fixing something, and then Matilda and the Nazi mobile come streaming by, and he gets crushed. And you do see the legs kind of flop, but there's no real shot or reference to it. She just kind of gets mad and oh, was he still under the car?
No, I don't think I even saw the legs flop.
Yeah, it's a very brief shot.
Quick. Yeah. I missed it.
Yeah,
that's why I had to rewind. I'm like, did we actually see that anything happened to the guy, or is it just implied? But no, you see it.
Right after the car runs over, there's this brief splatter of blood, mist of blood, and then the legs kind of roll, but it's very brief. Yeah. And that's what I love about this. And this is showing you why, and we talked about it last week with Boxcar Bertha, why Corman as a producer is so renowned, even though the type of films he makes, because he helped the director with these scenes because they're on a limited budget, so you never actually see any of the kills directly. Like nowadays, you'd see the kill.
Let's rewind the tape, Mark.
What?
There's some graphic kills in this movie, and we get plenty of them.
Right in the beginning, but they're quick. They're very quick.
But that's what I mean. Most of them are very quick cuts. They're cut. You see body part, you see leg, you see something. You don't sit on most of the kills.
There's there are two groin shots. There's the first Joe's first kill with the construction worker.
Yeah.
You see all of that, and then with the fisherman, when the car is sitting on top of the body, he revs the wheel into that guy's nuts, and it's a blood geyser.
Right. No, and actually Machine Joe's kills, and maybe that's also being either subtly or not subtly characters of how they kill people, because we've mentioned it. Frankenstein went after the doctors who put all the old folks in the road for euthanasia day, right? And Calamity Jane, she went after the Matador, because her car has two big old cow horns on it and cow spots.
Who, by the way, that was Louis Teague, who went on to direct Alligator.
Really?
That's who the Toreador was, which I found really interesting. John Landis was one of the construction guys that Joe goes after. I think he's the one that tells him to kill the guy on the ladder.
Oh, yeah.
At least I thought that was him. I saw that he's in the cast, but I didn't catch it. But yeah, that was Louis Teague of Alligator, who and a couple of other really fun movies. But yeah, it's interesting to see who these guys are. But yeah, she goes after the Toreador. I'm sorry, Mark, didn't mean to.
No, but I'm just saying is that the kills seem to be handled differently depending on the characters too, though.
You do have Frankenstein's Navigator, where there's the little boy rolling the tire on the road, and Frankenstein's like, oh yeah, and she goes around a tree, and it looks intentional to me. She goes, oh damn it, I missed him. Yeah, and I'm like, it's those little moments, to make you realize these are not bad people. These are not actually bad people. At least Frankenstein and his
Navigator
aren't. Can't say that about everybody else.
Well, there's also, we were talking to Lloyd Kaufman a couple weeks ago. There's, in addition to the teens in Toxic Avenger going out and having the whole point system for running people down the road, there's one or two spectacular head crushes underneath tires in this movie.
There are a couple of those. So yeah, Lloyd probably a fan of this movie as well, I would presume.
But what I like is that, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak to the popularity of Death Race 2000 because home video was not the same back in the 70s and 80s. It was barely like a thing back in 75, right? So it might be that people watching the Toxic Avenger might have thought, oh, this is not ripping off something else. This is just really kind of interesting and cool. And the people who are watching Death Race 2000 might not have also watched Toxic Avenger. So I'm saying it was not a one-to-one ripoff. Right. But I like that, taking that idea of the scoring points and placing it in a different context and trying to kind of one up it with the shock value was really nice.
Though I'm sure Lloyd probably had seen Death Race though, because I think he and Roger were.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
He and Roger were friends, so it's very possible that they knew of each other's work.
But I guess I was kind of inarticulately trying to think of like the audience perception of it. Like, you're not necessarily watching the Toxic Avenger thinking, oh, they ripped off Death Race 2000 at that point.
If you're someone who's seen Death Race 2000, you were probably renting it because of Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
Because you were probably a fan of like Rocky and Rambo and all that stuff. So it might actually have played to two different audiences, because this is less a horror movie than, Toxic Avenger would categorize as horror. It's a monster movie.
This is an action film.
Yeah, this is more of an action movie. So this would be more like the Stallone crowd.
This is an exploitation action film.
Yeah.
Roger, right up Corman's alley, But I guess, talking to you guys now, for me, I was just noticing it. But like today, I guess I'm just picking up like more of the modern kills in that. They usually last on them a little longer or whatnot. And it's obviously just style of filmmaking, but a number of the kills in this one are flash cuts to where you don't see everything, you see enough, in that kind of budgetary constraint.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, this is probably because they didn't have a lot of money for these effects. So the more we show them, the worse they'll look. So,
which is just fine by me because you see enough. Like even the head crushes in that, which look really good, you only stay on them for a few beats at most, just enough. Even when, like we mentioned, the guy getting rolled over in half, the longest kills. Now that you mention it, Ian, are from machine gun, whereas the rest are a little bit quicker. But now I'm even thinking about it more going, but that fits his character. His character's the bad guy. So you're going to show his deaths being more brutal. So you realize he's the worst of the bunch.
He's the worst of the bunch, which also includes Nazis.
Yeah, I mean that's
and again, we're talking literal Nazis wearing swastikas too. We're not talking about like
there's no subtlety here.
Yeah, there's no subtlety at all. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean that's the weird thing, like because Matilda the Hun, she does speak German, and she's like yelling a lot, but I don't recall. And this is the first time I watched it, so forgive me if I missed something obvious, but I don't remember a lot of like master race kind of like racism Nazi propaganda coming out of her. So I'm wondering if the whole, because it could have just been like, hey, we're proud Germans from Wisconsin, this is kind of like the Oktoberfest mobile or something, right? Because Attila the Hun wasn't a Nazi. Right. No. So I guess that's my question. It's got a great kind of look with the swastika and the flags and the emblems. It really does paint them as like, but given the character, like if they didn't have that stuff painted all over their vehicles, I wouldn't have drawn that comparison based on her. I would have just her actions and words. I would just said, oh, she's just obsessed with German culture.
There's only one time I remember her saying something about a master race.
But that's where I was going with that, Joey. I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you brought it up because even when she does talk like you expect her to, because they're interviewing them during their first massage where they're all butt-ass naked. I'm not complaining, but everybody is, because they're all beautiful people on the tables, the men and women, everybody, it's like, holy crap. But they interview her and she's like, oh, I just know that at the end of the race, the true winner will be the master race, women. She pauses and then she says women. And I'm like, wow. So they didn't even though they were calling her Nazis and that, even at that angle, she's like, and I know the master race that'll win, women. And I'm like, okay, didn't expect that little tag at the end.
No.
and yeah, that's the only time I could think of her saying anything like that. And I mean, it could be, again, like, I watched it late last night, so maybe I missed something. Because apparently I don't remember the blood geyser either. So I'm wondering if the version I had that cut out. So there's a couple things that weren't that I think might have been missing from mine, or it was 1 a.m. I was exhausted. My brain wasn't functioning at full capacity, maybe. But
it's just interesting. And again, that's why I do love watching these films, especially from Corman, because as you talked about, Ian, modern film didn't need to necessarily be 2 hours and 20 minutes, or however long it was. You look at how much, not only thematically, but character-wise, you get out of Death Race 2000 in just the short amount of time. You can peg who is who and what from their dialogue in just a sentence or two, or a scene in their actions. You know that character. We know Matilda the Hun, especially after when she drops the line of the master race women. You're like, that just added a different layer to this character that I had for her 5 minutes ago when you introduced her. You get Calamity Jane, who's all hoop and hollering, and then she's like actually talking nice to her competitors. It's like
well, on top of that, like you've got, what's her name? Pander, Grace Pander, whatever her name. She goes into this lady's house or apartment, and she brings out this woman who's like crying, and interviewing her on television, like, oh, this is the widow of the race's first victim, and as such, you get an apartment in Acapulco. Like, that's your price. And I'm like,
and big
again,
TV. Don't forget the big screen TV.
Oh, the big futuristic flat screen plasma TV, or whatever.
Yeah.
But to your point, Mark, that's just this little 20-second scene with some kind of sharp, funny dialogue that just opens up and paints all, adds another color to the palette of this world that you could waste 5 minutes with like inane dialogue and like, yes, I get it. Or you could have a great economy of dialogue and characters here like you have here. I mean, it makes me wonder, I don't know how this movie was received in 75. If people watched it and thought, oh, this looks cheap, this looks stupid. I'm wondering if, especially with the contraction of everything in Hollywood now, studios hemorrhaging money and saying, we got to cut our budgets. Can you just make a version of this movie? I don't know maybe you can do the conversion, Mark. How much did this movie cost in 75? Do you know what the budget was?
I'm not sure.
Probably not much.
I'm not sure the budget on that. I can pull it up quick thanks to the wonderful world of the internet.
Because what I'm thinking is, while you're doing that, I'll say why I'm asking this. Like, if you can take that equivalent, so if it's like, oh, well, today it would be $5 million, and give this to someone to make a low-budget movie that could play in a Cineplex, if we can get stuff like this that's an hour and 20 minutes long, my God.
Well, immediately on Google, I found that the budget is somewhere between $300,000 and $530,000, and we're wondering how it did. It grossed $5 to $8 million at the box office.
Wow!
So this was very successful, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and looking at the inflation calculator offhand, the 300,000, if you go by the low end, was a little less than $2 million. So you figure it out. $5 million maybe on the high end to make this movie, and you get a better film, post-apocalyptic, this dystopian futuristic film that covers more ground in less time with less money than many of the modern dystopian films.
And I think that's also part of why these movies are so well made, because they had to do it on very little money.
Yeah.
I think the reason these movies that we watch now get the way they are is because the budgets are so bloated and they get lazy. I think the filmmakers do get lazy because they're like, oh, we just have all this stuff at our disposal. I'll fix it in post. I'll fix it later. And I'm like, these guys like, no, we have to do it now. We have to get this right now because, we have to do it in 20. How long was the shoot for this? Probably just like 20 something days.
Yeah.
Because that's a Corman shoot is like 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So yeah, you got to get a lot of bang for that buck.
I mean, if you could cut some kind of a deal with like AMC to say, okay, for 1 year, you're gonna guarantee a slot of theaters, one movie each month, to show on your screens for 2 weeks, and these are going to be $5 million exploitation movies, romantic comedies, whatever genre you want, and this one studio is going to make these things. You're going to say, okay, young up-and-coming filmmaker, here's $5 million. Make this movie, and we're going to put it in AMC theaters and see how they do. If you cut the trailer right, and if they're quality films of any kind of note, not like dumb little student films or something like on the caliber of Death Race 2000, and they come out and people are like, we have to go see this movie. I think they're losing money at a fast clip anyway. Why not just take a year and experiment? It's like one division and one section
for the budget of one comic book film. Here, make 40 of these.
Not even the budget of a comic book film, because you're talking only like a $60 million experiment plus whatever it takes to get AMC to open up the theaters, right?
You break up that budget of the comic book movie and here, make 40 films with this one budget that we blocked out for this one film. I'm going to cut that into these pieces. Here you go. Make this movie.
I've made that comment a few times about movies. Like, you take this $500 million movie, you give that $500 million to Lloyd or to Corman or someone like that. Be like, here, I'm going to get 100 filmmakers and give them $5 million each, and I guarantee you, most of those movies are going to be better than the Trek you're seeing.
But here's the thing: you could do that arrangement, but most of those are going to end up on streaming and become invisible, right?
Yeah,
true.
And that's the problem.
You want to create an event where it's like,
Right.
hey, come see this fucking crazy ass movie. It's only going to be in theaters for 2 weeks, and then you say it's not going to be on VOD for 6 months. So see it now, or not.
You get 100 filmmakers, $5 million each to make a feature picture, and then you have an event where you show 2 of them a week, so that they have a little bit of a competition, saying they're only going to be in the theaters, like you said, for a week or 2, and they won't be on streaming for 6 months. One, you got your FOMO going on of people wanting to see it first and talk about it. 2, you got a little competition with your filmmakers if you got 2 of their films showing in the theater at the same time, and you've got a year's worth of programming done for the price of one major Iron Man, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you look at it, it kind of, a lot of the people, when you look at who Marvel ends up bringing in to direct these movies, you get, Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
You get like these directors who are making like these great movies on their own, and it's like Disney's then going, yeah, come here and make our Drek. Everything that you've done to make this great personal, independently budgeted movie. Yeah, just go do that Marvel thing we like. Just go do that. And that's the thing. The wolf climbing the hill is always hungrier than the one that's already on top. And it works even for filmmaking, because you're going to get guys who aren't used to, someone who's making a movie for $200,000 to $1 million is going to try to be infinitely more creative than the person who's already made it and is making his next movie for $500 million. It's just the way it is, because you take things for granted, and it's in all walks of life. If you start making 10 times the money you make right now at your job, you're going to spend 10 times more money than you have. It's just the way life works, and I kind of wish that like some of these people would keep their creative edge when they get to like a top level, like a Disney or a Warner Brothers or a Universal.
That's the wish for all of us. I mean, just kind of take you do the one big thing, and then you take it and just never look back and just go do your own thing, kind of like Robert Rodriguez, I guess. But yeah, I think you also came up with the name of the studio, Joe. It's Wolf Hill Studios.
Yeah,
There we go.
I like that. Wolf Hill Studios. Copyright Joe Randazzo. There you go.
You heard it here
But
first.
yeah, I mean, Death Race. I mean, there's a reason why we're talking about, but we're not the only ones, folks. There's still people that talk about this film today, and you still see it resonate through movies that are dropped today. But I mean, you mentioned Running Man for sure. If you look at Running Man, you're like, holy crap, that's like, not with cars, but it's still basically Death Race 2000, complete with the rebellion and angle. And of course, the media lying to the public, because you had that in Running Man, where they claimed that these 3 guys actually won the contest when they didn't. In this case, it's Frankenstein. Frankenstein's not actually immortal. It's been played by, this guy and this guy and this guy.
And also the president lying about the rebellion. There is no rebellion. Everybody's happy. It's the French. The French are fucking
It's the French. It's the French and their dirty European allies.
I love how they're like the main superpower, like versus America in this weird dystopian future.
Well, because America suffered, what was it? It was called the world crash of '79, and they didn't bounce back yet, but they're going to. They're going to bounce back yet.
Well, I mean, but that's just politics. I mean, you can't say, well, it's all over.
No,
right?
but I mean, it's also weird to see this satirical angle of politics in these older films, and you're like, that's still accurate on many angles. Today, TV, media, and politics hasn't changed in 50 years.
I mean, going back to last year when we were doing the pre-code movies, there are certain things that haven't changed in 90 years.
Right. It's crazy. And, for anyone who might turn this off because, low, but I'm like, watch this film. if you don't, you see Hunger Games alone, much less Running Man, much less even newer films. It's like there is so much that has been borrowed from this film in its approach to things. It's
well, I mean,
crazy.
that's the thing is like when I mentioned before, I didn't really want to see this because I heard like low budget 70s exploitation with cars. I'm like, but the only thing that would potentially be a turnoff from frame one is the kind of the hand-drawn logo. It looks like it came straight out of some kid's notebook. Even the matte paintings of the futuristic city in the background, you can like see the shading from the colored pencils they used. But otherwise, I don't think low budget, like that's not the first thing that pops into my head while I'm watching this movie. I'm thinking, wow, those are some cool looking cars. And I think one of the biggest crimes is in half a century of this movie being around, where are the action figures and like model cars of this? Because they're all amazing. You get McFarlane on the phone and come up with some real bangers.
If only Corman would have been able to have the money to like actually like market toys after these.
Oh,
what's funny is reading up some trivia on it. Apparently, after the popularity of the movie, Corman was able to sell cars to the car museum, and he sold them for considerably more than it cost to make the movie.
Oh, I'll bet.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sold to the museums for considerably more than it cost to build them. That's what it was." It's still, though. I mean, it's like that sounds like true Corman fashion right there.
Yeah, and you know what? I for a while now. I mean, I've watched this movie since I was a teenager. I watched the Vincent Price movies with my dad. I really the last couple of years started thinking Corman might be the greatest producer of all time. Because the things he was able to pull off with barely any money. Honestly, the guy was the king, and the people that came out of it: Francis Ford Coppola, Joe Dante, Martin Scorsese. Like, look at who came out of that. And then the lower end you get your Jim Wynorskis and things, but
yeah,
it's a phenomenal farm system.
Well, not only the farm system, but his approach in narrative storytelling as well of what's going to sell. Not necessarily what's the best, but what's going to get your film sold.
Recently, we showed Piranha on the last drive-in, and it fell on me to do the complete breakdown of everything that happens in Piranha, so that Joe Bob can take his notes and his reviews and match them up with mine. And basically, what part of my task is putting in where to cut and have Joe Bob come in. And Corman, he used to preach to his guys to have something happen basically round about every 10 minutes. So that one was the easiest one for me to decipher where to put in the cuts, because every 10 minutes something happens where I could go, okay, that's a big suspenseful moment. I can have him cut right there and cut to Joe Bob. So that's, he instilled that in here. And even here, every couple minutes, something happens. If you start getting bored for a second, something's going to happen to snap you right back into the movie. Like with Corman movies, I don't check my phone because I'm constantly glued because there's always something going on.
Well, even in the quiet parts, I mean, you had the part where, you're taking the racers take a break and you're like, okay, here's a little bit of the slower part. You look what happens. Suddenly there's a quiet moment to where they're at dinner and you're like, where did Machine Gun go? Where did his navigator go? Where did his navigator go? And all of a sudden we cut to a quiet part where she's looking in her car, and all of a sudden Machine Gun Joe comes out and you're like, oh, here's some dialogue part. The dialogue part lasts for maybe a minute before Joe is starting to throttle her. And you're like, oh, he's going to kill her now. No. Then we get Carradine coming in, Frankenstein, and they have a fist fight in the garage. And it's
there's stunt doubles too.
But I mean,
the high definition, you can see that switch when it cuts from Stallone to a stunt double. It's so funny.
but still, the way it's edited and cut and it flows, it's like bang, bang, bang. It's less than a couple minutes of quietness before something else is moving, either your camera or the story or the action or something. You're right. This film just is so efficient in that.
That's the Corman way. The efficiency is the Corman way. He even said the perfect time perfect timing for a movie is around 85 minutes. It's a perfect amount of time. If you're putting it on TV, it's perfect for a 2-hour block. If you're in a movie theater, it's perfect time for the crew to come in and clean up and get another screening up in half an hour. So, he always wanted his movies to fall in that range. And he was a big stickler for that you must have something. The audience has to get something out of it. The audience has to get this much entertainment out of it. So that's why I'm like, the man was a genius.
Well, going back to the quote unquote boring parts, I mean, there aren't really any boring parts in the movie. There are scenes where characters are having important conversations that sort of act as like info dumps. But the way he gets around it being just an info dump scene, and I'm thinking specifically of the love scene between Frankenstein and Annie, is they're taking their clothes off slowly, and they're like kind of like caressing and feeling each other up, and they're having these this is where Frankenstein is talking about like, oh, I was bred in a government institution to become this racer, and you're like, what the?
He's doing
wait,
that.
what? Oh,
he does that. They have that dialogue. He's literally giving his dialogue while Annie is laid out on the bed naked, and you see her full body in the frame.
Yeah,
or the other scene or the scene right before that where she sits there for almost a good minute while he's talking topless forefront. He's in the background, but he's saying the important stuff, but she's right there.
Yeah, and you're getting the information, but you're also enraptured for other reasons, and I just love it. Yeah, it's perfect.
And by the way, the scene where he's taking his clothes off and she's asking him about the injuries kind of reminds me of another movie, Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah.
There's a 3. It's 2 with Rene Russo and Mel Gibson. It's not done the same way, and that one they're actually showing each other scars. Here we don't see any actual scars, but that kind of reminded me of that.
Oh, another thing, RoboCop.
Yeah.
When we see Frankenstein coming up, the whole POV of the team is like looking at him and stuff, and you were seeing it from his perspective. It's totally RoboCop.
Yeah, when he gets off of the Gertie.
Yep.
Fun little fact for folks. Apparently, Corman has tried twice to get Peter Fonda to be in his films, and Fonda had said no because they're ridiculous. One of them was Piranha. The other one was this film. They tried to get him to be Frankenstein, but he thought it was going to be ridiculous.
And the odd thing is, I thought the announcer kind of looked like Peter Fonda a couple
He
of
did
times.
kind of. Yeah, he did kind of.
I mean, Peter Fonda started under Corman, so it's,
yeah,
it wouldn't have been out of the realm of possibility to see him. But Sean pointed out last time when we were watching this, he's like, I think Peter Fonda at this point was probably too big.
Yeah.
Later on, he'd go back to doing Corman movies after he kind of dipped a little bit,
But also, as a side note, and I remember this as a kid. Now, 76, I was 1, but I remember the game had been around for a long time in arcades because the older arcades lasted for like ever. There was a video game that was inspired by this movie, not directly linked, but inspired by this movie called Death Race. It came out in 76, and I remember it distinctly. And it's probably one of the first video games that had major controversy because here's the concept. They went from the movie, and it's similar to the game. Now, you're all talking a monochrome screen back then. So you're talking, not color depth. But I remember this. You had a little guy in a racer car, like an old school racer car, and he's a little skeleton guy, right? And he drove around the board, and you would run over people for points. The challenge to this video game was that when you rolled over them and killed them for points, a little tombstone would pop up. If your car hit the tombstone, you crashed and lost a guy. So you had to strategically kill the people in the center of the screen and then move out. Otherwise, you made it hard for yourself to try to navigate around the board with all of these tombstones.
Wow.
And that video game, go figure, caused some controversy.
Oh, yeah. In the 70s especially.
But I remember playing it as a kid. Someone had it. It was one of those back corner games in the video game arcade, that they've had this machine forever and they don't want to get rid of it because people still put points in. I remember playing it. It had the steering wheel controller and you had to control your guy around the tombstones. It was an amazing game.
Now with Grand Theft Auto and all this stuff, that'd be considered so quaint.
But it's still a challenge. Them older games are a challenge, but I remember that distinctly. But yeah, it was controversial. Go figure. But yeah, it was inspired directly by this game. So even video games were inspired by Death Race 2000.
Amazing.
It's amazing, and I am so happy, Ian, that you enjoyed this one.
Loved it.
I am that warms my dark little heart that you enjoyed this film, because I was hoping you would. Because for me, it's one of those, I don't watch it often, but every time I watch it, I have fun enjoying watching it, because everybody, and that's the thing too. You watch this film. I guess Stallone wrote some of his own dialogue for it too.
That makes sense.
But you watch this film and you would think, oh, this kind of cheesy. Nobody feels like it's phoning it in either, though. They're all playing characters. They're all understanding what movie they're in, but they're playing it the way you want them to play it. And it's just another example of why I encourage people to look back at older films, especially some older films like this, because you can find a lot of great stuff in them, I think.
Well, and I think, kind of going back to The Long Walk for a second, the thing that the novel really captured was there was this competitive aspect, like there can be only one winner.
Right, yeah.
So a lot of the deaths that are kind of played spectacularly in the film, when you read them on the page, they're very sad. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that Death Race 2000, for as much of a cartoon as it could be, I think of like Calamity Jane. When that last race, it's like her and the two other, racers, they're getting ready to go out, and she goes up to Frankenstein, and Annie is like, no matter whatever happens, I just want to say it's been an honor to race with you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then she tries to do the same thing with Joe, and he basically tells her to fuck off. But you really feel genuine. She's not like saying this to get anybody's head or whatever. And then so when she goes out on her final journey, and the rebels have set up that landmine, it's that Hitchcockian briefcase thing of like, is she going to run over it? And then you see she's getting away, like, oh thank God, because she seems, she's a crazy villainous racer in this absurd game, but you kind of start to see her as a person, right? And then all of a sudden she's gone, and you're like, that sucks, that hurt. Especially because she had that kind of reaction when Matilda and her navigator went over the edge. These people are starting to understand the consequences of the game that they're in after all this time. I don't know how many races they've been in, but it has that level of sadness wrapped up inside an exploitation movie, which you don't expect.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, that was immediately what pops into my head when you get that mine scene. I mean, that's Corman going right from that Hitchcock book of the landmines in the ground. She avoids, she manages to take out the two rebel motorcycle guys that tried to take her out. And you're like, oh, she survived that. And then she realized she's in the middle of nowhere and thinking, yeah, I don't want to be here because there's all these shot up cars. And you get this wonderful low shot of the mine in the foreground, and the wheels come by and they miss the first time. And you're like, yes, okay, drive away. But then she does another move, and you're like, no, wait.
That was like they did like a rule of 6 in that scene. Like, just it was crazy. But what I also loved, I don't know if they stole this from The Godfather or what, but when she notices those other cars that have like they're kind of exploded and some of them have bullet marks, you kind of see her put it together for a second, and it reminded me of Sonny at the toll booth. That moment when he's like, oh shit, everyone's like, it's too quiet out here, and everyone's ducking down for some reason. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that Coppola was another Corman guy, so that's
yeah.
You keep going, but also, and I love that we keep talking about Corman. Let's also not forget, this was Paul Bartel directing.
Yeah,
so we got to give him a lot of the credit.
Right, no, I give him
too.
Absolutely.
I mean, Corman was the guiding hand, but yeah.
But no, his approach, I guess he and one other guy actually did the credits and didn't tell Corman. So I'm sure Corman loved that.
Well, here's the thing, like, because Paul Bartel directed it, but there's 3 credited writers on here, but he's not one of them. So I don't know. Do we know what kind of creative input he had in terms of the story, or was it just in terms of the way that they kind of visually told things? I don't know.
Unless he did it under a pseudonym, did he? I don't know. Who are the writers here?
They are Robert Tom, Charles B. Griffith, and I.B. or Ib Melchior.
Ib Melchior apparently wrote the
Charles
story.
B. Griffith would be The Time That Dreaded Sundown.
Yeah.
That's Charles B. Griffith. All right, cool.
And I.B. Melchior apparently he wrote the story of this.
Yeah.
So, and then Robert Thom, who would actually go on to he did a number of exploitation. Bloody Mama, Wild in the Streets. Actually, Death Race 2000 was one. He did Crazy Mama that same year, as well as he did a lot of exploitation films.
Nice.
And there you go, music fans. He did All the Fine Young Cannibals. He wrote that screenplay. So there you go.
And I see Charles B. Griffith and Louis Teague also did some directing in this, which I would assume would be the scenes they're in. They probably helped out a little bit. Maybe they were a little more seasoned. So,
well, that you don't have to pay a second AD then.
That's true. Yeah.
We need this pickup scene. So if you want to go ahead, you mentioned to me the other night over dinner you wanted to direct. Tell you what, we need this scene. Go shoot it. and sure, you could direct it.
It's a running joke whenever I see Roger Corman pop up in a Roger Corman movie. He didn't want to pay somebody, so he's just I'll do the part myself.
Apparently, speaking of money, Carradine is one of only 2 actors to ever take percentage from a Corman film. He took 10%.
Wow, that was a smart move.
Probably because he was by this point an established star.
Yeah, he was in Kung Fu in '72, so people knew him from Kung Fu.
That's probably okay. Roger, you're not going to pay me that much. Well, I'm going to. And despite be where Nicholson got the idea for Batman, no, you know, okay, I'll do it for a little bit of. Just give me points on the toy line. Give me points on this and this and this, and suddenly became a $90 million payday for Jack Nicholson.
To which he was at the time the highest paid actor ever, because they even made a joke about it at the Oscars about him at the time. During that time, he was the highest paid director, actor. Yeah.
And another Corman guy.
And another Corman guy. Yeah, one of my favorite films, The Raven. Yeah, I guess he and Ron Howard, Carradine and Ron Howard are the only stars from a Roger Corman production to ever get a percentage of the gross.
And Howard again, because he was already a star because of
Happy Days?
Happy Days. Yeah.
Well, before Happy Days.
Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith.
Show.
Yeah,
he was Opie.
So he was Opie. So very interesting stuff. A very interesting conversation. Thank you all, folks. Hope my live streamers who watched this enjoyed this conversation. Final thought with Death Race 2000. Joe, go first.
I love the independent spirit of it. I love that you could see the craftsmanship and every dollar spent on this movie on screen at all times. It didn't have a lot of money, but it stretched every dollar as far as it could, and I appreciate that. There's something about lower budget movies that always they always open up my heart a little bit more so than, and I'm always going to be kinder to a lower budget movie than I will to a big budget movie, because it's a labor of love, and these guys could not have been making a lot of money. You could see that there was a passion for making this movie. I don't know if everybody loved the script, if everybody was just like, this is my chance, but it all comes together. And I really love that about this movie. It didn't cost a fuck ton of money, but it all does come together, and it all works. I love that about this movie. I love that about this era. I love that about New World and Concord and all of Corman's stuff. I love the satire of it. And if you're out there and you haven't seen Eating Raoul, go see Eating Raoul. Criterion put it out on Blu-ray a couple years ago. I absolutely adore that movie. You get Mary Warnoff, who is Calamity Jane in this. Her and Paul Bartel were like that for many years, and much like Dick Miller in a lot of movies would pop up as Walter Paisley from Bucket of Blood, or that would be the character's name, just out of tribute. Paul Bartel and Mary Warnoff would show up as Paul and Mary Bland, which are the character names from Eating Raoul in a lot of movies, from Joe Dante and Jim Wynorski and all those guys. So yeah, check that out. Check this movie out. Just go through your filters. Look at Corman in the 70s, the stuff he produced, because you look at the filmmakers that came out of that era. You have, like I said before, Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Joe Dante, Robert Towne, Jack Nicholson. The list could just go on, because these were people who were passionate about movies and were making movies on a very, very low budget that they weren't getting rich off of. And the passion for it shows in these movies.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Ian, what's your final thought with Death Race 2000?
Well, I mean, it's just one of dozens of examples of movies that I hadn't seen before, but thanks to your show and the wonderful themes that you keep coming up with, it's finally the opportunity to watch and discover these movies that, I mean, it's 50 years old. Mm-hmm. I'm 48, and I'd never watched this movie, and it really does give me hope that I'm not just becoming a sour old critic who hates everything. I'm just getting to the point where I hate most new things, because I saw 2 big releases this weekend, and I was miserable watching both of them. And then I watched this movie this morning, and I was on cloud 9. I'm like, this, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care who directed it, who wrote it, who produced it, how cheesy it was, or the area it came out of. This is cinema. This is what people want when they go to the movies. They want, entertainment, a little bit of flesh, cool story, and maybe even some highfalutin ideas that they can, filter through the reality that they have to live through every day when they leave the movie theater, or, press stop on their VOD. And then you think about, as we've touched on, all the things this movie is inspired. And I wonder, is this where a lot of these seeds came from? Or is there something further back that has that kind of satirical, corporate government, all-seeing eye bent to it? Because if this is the origin point for a lot of the things that we're talking about, as far as like Hunger Games and Long Walk and all this other big media ideas that have come out in the last half century, it's pretty amazing that it came from this $200,000 exploitation film. It's incredible. It's an incredible movie that needs to be seen to be believed. And damn it, I want the action figures. Who's going to make those?
Hell, even the Hot Wheels. I'll take a Hot Wheels car of these. A nice diecast, version of each of them. And I reflect. You guys both said it very well. This is why I enjoy watching these older films, and this film easily could have fell into the original, into the world of Rollerblade, the Rollerball, the first one with James Caan. You easily could have put Death Race 2000 in with these two.
Yeah, they would make a nice double feature.
They make a nice double feature, I think.
I'm going to go you one further, Mark. I'm going to ask that someone use AI. Yes, I know, terrible word. To put just drop one crossover reference into either one of these films to connect the universes, and that would be bliss.
But again, it's folks making stuff with limited resources, so getting creative, and it comes through on screen, and it's far more effective than a lot of stuff that had bigger budgets. And they have charm to them, but more importantly, there's There is craft involved. And I'm not slamming newer films. There's some new films that I really enjoy. It's usually the lower budget ones, but still, there's some newer films I really enjoy. I just did, pardon my shill, a written review on Waltzing with Brando. It's a film based off of a book of an architect creating this utopia, basically, this ecological utopia based off of Marlon Brando's idea. Something I didn't even know about Brando did. I just knew him, the actor. And this film is based off the book. So while it is based on true events, watching that, and it was made for less money, I watched that. I was just so pulled into that film. I never thought of Billy Zahn as Marlon Brando before I saw it. And then afterwards, I'm like, holy crap. It worked so well. But the lower budget stuff, hell, even Godzilla -1, look at the budget of that versus your budget of probably The Long Walk. And so that's what endears me with these films, especially these ones where they were trying stuff for the first time. They were experimenting. They were feeling it out. And yeah, Death Race 2000, watch it and you'll go, yeah, I see so many of these modern dystopian films from this movie, which was probably influenced by literature. I won't necessarily say other films, but I think, to your point, Ian, I think this was influenced by other literature that was written, dystopian literature, which was popular, but not necessarily films. But yeah, this is definitely one of those milestone movies that had to be influential.
One of the major Corman genres was the hot rod movie in the 50s and 60s. He did a lot of those. This is kind of
a hybrid of that.
Yeah, dystopian hybrid of, the juvenile delinquent hot rod movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you have it, folks. And it is an over the hill episode, but we're not spinning the wheel around them again. We're not going to spiel the wheel. Yeah, I know. Hey, I produce this show too, so I can make the decisions. So instead, because next month is Halloween season, it's spooky movie season. Not all of these films in this category are spooky, but some of them are definitely horror films, and some of them are also very scary in other ways. But next month is going to be Totally Committed month. They're films that are involving folks in asylums, in insane asylums. So our Over the Hill film next month will be One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Okay, we were just talking about Jack Nicholson, another Corman connection. So we're going to look at One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Along with that, we're going to look at The Ward, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and I'm finally getting to talk about it, Return to Oz.
Nice.
A scary children's movie. And if you don't think it is a horror movie, you haven't seen Return to Oz. So they're horror, Jason, horror enough to where I think they're fitting out of the last three categories we have for October spooky season. So stay tuned for Totally Committed month. And now don't go away yet, because this is where I give my viewers the license to shill. Joe, you got anything to shill with for us?
Darcy the Mail Girl already let the cat out of the bag. We're doing 3 double features on the last drive-in next month. We're doing the regular episode. There's going to be an episode of AMC Fear Fest, which I don't think as of this moment they announced the movies yet, but
sure.
Those are usually where we fit in our bigger titles because that's on AMC, and we're doing a Halloween special at the end of the month. So as we get closer, and each week, I'll remind you guys of what's coming up. But that's about it.
Awesome. Ian, what do you got to shill?
I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com and also right here on YouTube. We do regular movie reviews and live streams and interviews and all that good stuff. Tomorrow night, the weekly live stream is going to be on Monday instead of Wednesday. We're going to be talking about The Long Walk, the new Stephen King adaptation, quote unquote. And then also on Thursday, we'll be doing the second to last episode, mercifully, thankfully so, of Say No More Xenomorph, our weekly series covering Alien Earth. So yeah, check us out there. And thanks.
Awesome. And for my part, folks, I'm shilling as well. Sawdust City Fright Fest, second weekend in October. Friday night, the opening night, we will be showing Wisconsin's own creature feature, the Giant Spider Invasion for its 50th anniversary. That's how we're opening it, as well as it's one of those concept short films, Rise of Dearmageddon is going to play that night as well. It's Wisconsin produced. And then Saturday will be all days, 2 blocks of shorts and a feature film to close things out. SaadaCityFrightFest.com will give you the schedule there. So check that out. As I said, on SpecialMarkProductions.com, all your Movie Man needs there, including 2 new written reviews, one for a new film called The Womb, and the other one, as I mentioned, Waltzing with Brando, which is become one of my favorite films for this year. And I did not expect to say that, but yeah, a lot of other reviews and stuff dropping. I fell a little behind, but then, I always overdo it anyway. I hope you enjoyed this. Also, there's still time. Go to SpecialMarkProductions.com, click the Animation Nation voting button, and vote for what 12 animated films we're going to talk about for our special series next year, which is Animation Nation, where we'll be looking at 12 animated films, not necessarily all Disney either. So an interesting ballot so far. So check that out, folks. Check my wonderful cast here out, these crew members who really make this show something else special. And I appreciate all of you. And now I just say a good night, everyone.